Okay, you guys, I honestly don't even know if I still know how to do this. Is this a bad omen? I don't know. Okay, you guys, well, bad news. We're gonna just have to play through the pain here of the noise outside the window. Not much I can do about it. Yesterday it was the road construction. They ripped up our street for, I swear, the 8th time trying to lay fiber. And then earlier this morning it was my neighbor's lawn guy. Now it's mine, and then I've got one on the other side who just started. So I think it's one of those things we're just gonna have to chalk it up to the reality of life in a city and deal with it. In any case, I'm Haley. This is the Knit Weekend podcast. This is just my space to nerd out about all things knitting and fiber, and I am excited to sit down with you guys again. I kind of told myself I had to do it this weekend, like a band-aid, get back in front of the camera, sit down with you guys, have a good chat, probably a few laughs, because let's face it, having been so long since I filmed, this is probably gonna be a train wreck of an episode. I'm hopeful we'll just giggle our way through it and not take life too seriously, and then you'll decide to come back again. In any case, by way of a brief introduction, I am a knitter in Nashville, Tennessee, and I live here with my husband, Duncan, who is in the music industry, as you might be able to tell by some of the albums behind me. And also our 2 furry children, Buster Brown, he is a pit mix rescue, and Sweet Georgia Brown. Sweet Georgia Brown, otherwise known as Georgie, sometimes goes by No. You have met before if you've watched previous episodes. She is a co-host, although more recently, more like a guest co-host on this podcast. I believe she is in her 2nd nap of the day right now, so I'm not sure that she will join us, which, by the way, just to, because a couple people reached out and were concerned about Sweet Georgia Brown. In the last episode, I think that I filmed, I mentioned that she had been yelling a lot, and she is getting a little up in age, and they encouraged me to take her to the vet. Want to let you know, we have done that. We've done all the blood tests. Everything looks perfect. Her kidney's fine. Her thyroid is fine. She is just a brat and getting cantankerous in her old age. So who knows if we'll get a dose of that screaming action today or not. She's actually been pretty good the past few days. So we'll hope that she sticks with that. Anyway, when we last chatted, I think it was late February, early March. Does that sound right? And I was getting ready for Nash Yarn Fest, which now seems like such a distant memory. It was great fun. My friend Mia from Knit and Grace, who I'm sure you know, came and stayed with me, and we met up with Beche from My Hand Knit Letter, Ashley from Design by So-and-so, lots of other folks who you spend your time with on YouTube. And just had such a fun weekend. It was lovely to host everybody in my hometown. We actually ended up hosting a brunch, or I ended up hosting a brunch, and was able to sit down and see all of these friends, like the gals from the knitting posse, at a table with me, and it was just bizarre to have everybody come off of my YouTube and at the table with me, but it was really fun. And I am already dreaming of Rhinebeck once again. So, because that'll be the next opportunity to see people in person. Now, I know not everybody is into the yarn festival thing, but if there is one in your town or near you that you want to travel to, or even one across the world, I would highly encourage it. What I love about this space is the community, and that is something that just kind of compounds on itself when you finally get to meet in person. I had a lot of people come up to me and say hello, which was fun. Met people from my mom's hometown who watched the podcast, or well, kind of adjacent to her hometown. They're kind of in the middle of nowhere, but anyways, had the ladies from Livingston come say hello, which was really fun to have that connection. And a lot of you came up to tell me that you love Georgie, which is funny. I'm just Georgie's mom. That's all I am. We also met some great yarn dyers and producers. Julie was just amazing. Julie Aislin? How do we pronounce her last name? French Canadian. I don't do the French very well. And just had a really lovely time for the weekend. So like I said, eagerly looking forward to riding back. Kind of after that, the next big adventure that I went on, we went up to Marquette, to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, to visit my husband's family. Had a great experience up there, and just a small shout out to the ladies for the Monday 1 p.m. knitting group. My husband's uncle is in assisted living, and we went to go play cards, but when we walked in, there was a group of ladies sitting around a table, and I gasped and ran back out to the car and got my knitting to ask if I could join their knitting club for the day. So everybody else played cards. I sat down and hung out with the knitting ladies. It was really fun. And in any case, I have kind of just been around the world and back, and also doing nothing all at the same time, I guess is the moral of that story. To also just give you a brief update on my family health challenge. I want to let everybody know that we came out the other side. I haven't gotten permission to speak about it, so I'm going to hold back the kind of exact details and also who was involved. But one of my close family members was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in December, and we had a rough few months, but in May we had a PET scan that showed no signs of cancer. So chemo is done, radiation was fine, and now we are just on maintenance for that. So that's kind of what all was going on, and why I kind of just dropped the ball on getting back here to spend some time with you guys. But I am here and I am excited. I don't know if this is going to be a 2-hour episode. If it is, then I'm probably going to split it in editing. So we'll just think of this as maybe the preface for part 1, and we'll see how it goes. But why don't we start where we always start, which is with what I am wearing. And this actually ties back into some of the travel. So I am wearing the Cameo vest by Tete Beche. This one has become like very popular as of late, which took me by surprise, because with my unplugged nature, I haven't really been on Instagram. You may have noticed. I haven't been on YouTube. You may have noticed. And so I didn't realize that this pattern is kind of having a resurgence of a moment. It's one that's been on my list for ages and just waiting for the right yarn to come along. So on our trip back from Marquette, we passed through this small town in Michigan called Elizabeth, and naturally we stopped for lunch, and naturally I had to look to see if there was a yarn shop in town, and there was. Please forgive me for not remembering the name of the yarn shop. If you look up Elizabeth, Michigan, there's only one yarn shop, trust me, and that's where I stopped in. Sweet little shop, and they carried a yarn that I have been wanting to try, which is the North Bay Fiber Heritage DK. Okay, so let me talk about this yarn a little bit. First of all, you probably recognize this base because Andrea Mowery's just designed a cardigan in the sport weight version of this. This is the DK. So this is a woolen spun yarn. Do I know what type of fiber? It does not. Oh, Targhee and Polypay. So it's super, super squish. It was spun at Zellinger Mill in Michigan, which has now closed. So when I saw this, I thought, you know what? I just need to get it, because this yarn, if they ever do another run of it, is not going to be exactly the same way. So I'm going to grab it. Now, as I said, this was on my trip home. So I had already done a fair amount of damage in other yarn shops along the way. So I told myself I could only buy this yarn if I immediately cast it on. And that's what happened. So I swatched on the car ride home and came out with the Cameo vest. Now, I love this vest. I think it is great. The only modification that I wish I had made is I wish maybe I had made the shoulders a bit more narrow. And when I looked at some of the Ravelry project notes, after I knit it, because that's when you look at the Ravelry project notes, not before you knit it, right? I did notice that several people said the same thing, that it is a bit of a wide shoulder. So to kind of compensate for that, I think I could have cast off a few more stitches at the underarm and made the shoulder a bit narrower. Other than that, that's the only thing that I would change about this. Now, I did make just one very small, well, I guess, yeah, I made one very small modification, and that's that I shortened the length. So this is knit bottom up, which I know is scary for a lot of us, me included. But what I did was I kind of selected another sweater that I wanted to hit in a similar, that I wanted this to hit in a similar spot, and then figured out the length of the body based on the schematic of the armhole. So backed into the length of the body, ended up taking about 3/4 of an inch off what the pattern recommended for the body. And I think it is absolutely perfect in what I want. Oh, the other modification that I made, I cast on for the size 1, but I actually increased along the edges for the size 2, which was easy to do. Let me see if I can show you, because there is kind of this line here, and then kind of like a field of just stockinette on either side. So because that line and the field of stockinette on either side, it was really easy to just build in a few increases. So I think I increased 8 stitches, and then I just cast those off in the underarm. A very easy modification to make, and that kind of gave me the silhouette that I wanted, which is a kind of cropped little waistcoat silhouette. I would totally be interested in re-knitting this and having it be longer without the waist shaping. I think that would be very cool, like have it hit mid-hip. That's just another option. But other than that, I think pretty well exactly to pattern. Editing Haley here. I just realized that I did make some other modifications to this vest. For one, I added an extra row on the button band and bound off from the wrong side to give it a bit more stability. And then I also took a few rows out of the shoulder of the armhole rim because the shoulder was so wide. So anyway, just carry on. Exactly to pattern. I loved knitting this. One, the yarn was just so enjoyable. By the way, I did not alternate skeins, so there may be some little micro striping, but I'm not really too concerned about it. But this knot stitch was really fun to knit and just enough interest to like keep me moving forward, combined with this really simple little cable pattern. The cable pattern, very easy. It's just like a two-stitch cable, so nothing overly complicated. And let's see, buttons. Let me show you the buttons. These are just mother of pearl buttons that I picked up at a vintage store, actually, or an antique store. I was in an antique mall and I turned around and a stand had a whole bunch of mother of pearl packages. So I think I got 20 buttons for $5, decided that was a steal, and bought 2 bags, 2 different sizes. So anyway, I'm overcoming my fear of buttons. I hate sewing buttons on. Hate it, hate it, hate it, which is probably why I have so few cardigans in my wardrobe. But I need to just get over it because it's not that bad. It's just slightly tedious, and it really does kind of make a really cute garment when you can have some buttons, fun buttons on it. Let's see. I think that is pretty well it about the Cameo vest. Did I say it's Tete Beche? Did I say that? I don't think I did. Like I said, we're gonna be a little rusty trying to work our way through this. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm wearing, also finished object. I guess I finished this about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I think I have notes on Ravelry, maybe. I don't have finished object photos. My goal after I get done filming is to do some finished object photos. We'll see if I meet that goal or not. Okay, so let's move on to finished objects. And let's see, this is one that I think I showed you guys in the last podcast. It was not quite finished. if it's a duplicate, if it was finished then and I'm showing it again, it's just because I love it so much. So this is the Dusk Light Shawl. This is by a designer named Graf. On Ravelry, you'll find this designer under Sylvia McFadden, but they did change their name to Graf, so that's Instagram. And it is a triangular shawl, half garter, half lace. I have knit this in the Shetland sport weight yarn Paribas shearing 2020, Paribas 2024 shearing. From my friend Julie at Leatherwood Creek Farm. So this is just, I mean, I wore this. One good thing about going back to Michigan is I got to have second winter. So I finished this like right before, I think I finished this in April. We went in May. So I was able to kind of get some wear out of this, which is just fabulous. I can't say enough good things about this yarn and about this pattern. The pattern was so simple and just really such a friendly, I think my friend Jackie said that you just feel the love in the designer's patterns, and I would have to agree. And this yarn could not have been more perfect for the lace stitch in the pattern. Now I think this pattern is originally designed in a fingering weight yarn, but having knit it in a sport weight, I went up a needle size. One of the other things that Jackie shared with me about, and by the way, that's Jackie, she has from a Knitting a Good Yarn podcast. She shared that in her experience, the shawl was a bit too small. So I do think going up to a sport weight yarn and knitting it on a little bit of a larger needle helped me to avoid that. And in my mind, this is just absolutely perfect. I am so looking forward to being able to wear this when fall comes around again. So anyway, since we already talked about this in the last episode, I won't spend too much more time on that. I gave the last remaining skein of this yarn that I had to Mia when she was here for the Nash Yarn Fest. So that's all she wrote for my little Pariba yarn stash. Oh, I think my co-host Georgie has awoken from her nap. I hear her howling in the background. Are you gonna come film? Okay, you'll think about it? Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if you were joining or not, so I just, yes, I know, that's why I got started. Okay, so the next, you gonna let me, okay. Another little project that I worked on is the Isla shawl. Now this is or Isla scarf, I think. This is a pattern from Biches Buches, and it's designed in their petite lamb's wool, but I kind of went into stash for this. So a little bit of an explanation on this little scarf. I knit this while I had COVID. So that's another thing that you missed. I did come down with COVID. It was not super fun. And this, no ma'am, why must you do that? We don't do that. Cats. And so this was kind of just a little spontaneous cast on so that I wasn't knitting on an overwhelming sweater or something while my brain was in deep fog. So it is a 3-color slip stitch pattern, and I don't know if they categorize it as mosaic, but I would say it's mosaic. And mine kind of reminds me of like a little summer camp kerchief, doesn't it? In the colors. Yeah, I think it's just like a little summer campy. It is a little small. I think if I were knitting this again, which it was very fun, so I am totally up for knitting it again, I would probably do an extra repeat of the slip stitch pattern. No, why are you determined to be bad? Are you showing off? No, ma'am. Come on. So I would probably do an extra repeat of the slip stitch section of the color work. Like I said, I knit mine in stash, so I use the light gray is Wooldreamers Soana, which is the wool and cotton blend sport weight. And it was really a great yarn. I actually at Nash Yarn Fest saw another shawl that was knit in this yarn. Now all the colors are a bit more subtle. So it's not so much in my color palette, because as you know, I generally like either neutrals or something a little bolder. But it was made for a really lovely shawl. So if you are somebody who likes soft tones, then you might consider that yarn for a shawl. But the other two yarns are a couple of my bucket list yarns. This is Blackberry Ridge. They're just kind of house line fingering weight in dark persimmon and olive, I think. They sell their colors, their fingering weight colors in, I think, little like 10 gram minis. So that's what these were. Maybe they're 20 grams. I don't know, guys. I don't know where the tags are on these. So Blackberry Ridge is just kind of a throwback to a bygone era. I believe that they only just are selling whatever they have, and then after that they're done. They are retiring. Georgie, must you? Okay, she's found something in the corner to climb into just for the sole fact of making noise while we're trying to film. Anyway, so because kind of what they have is what they have, it is one of those that if it's something that you're interested in trying, I would definitely go grab it. It is a woolen spun fingering weight yarn, so it's a little bit on the thicker side, which is why I felt comfortable to pair it with the Soana, which was a sport weight. I am really pleased with this. I would say the only thing that I should have done or wish I had done differently is I wish I had been, gosh, this is the screaming I was talking about. I wish I had not knit the I-cord edge quite so tightly, because it does kind of curve a bit oddly at the ends, and I tried and tried to block that out to make it completely straight, but it just isn't going to happen. So kind of has like more of a bit of a curve shape to the kerchief. Ma'am, I will put you up. Yeah. In any case, I think this is going to be a really fun little kerchief to wear at the lake this summer, the cabin, don't you think? Okay, while we are on small objects, oh, I did not weave in the ends, guys. Okay, well, you can tell that because I was knitting this out of season, I just didn't even care about the ends being woven in. I will weave those in eventually, and this has also not been blocked yet, so I need to do that as well. So this is the Harlow hat from Andrea and Mowery, and I knit this in some gorgeous hand spun that I picked up in Marquette. The local yarn shop there is called Moonspun Wool. You can buy some of her yarn selections online, though not even like a good quantity, and some of these like one-offs or one-of-a-kinds are only available in the shop, so, or in person, and are not available online. So this is a merino hand spun called Spring Blush. Oh, you know what? I should have looked to see who the spinner is. This is not spun by the owner of Moonspun. I want to say it's called Angel's Hill. I don't know. I will put that down in the notes. So this is just some lovely kind of a fun project yarn that I picked up there. And then I combined that with some Atlas that I had picked up at the Nash Yarn Fest. Atlas is the Modern Daily Knitting worsted weight Rambouillet yarn. So all of those combined to make the Harlow hat. I have to say, 2-color brioche, very fun. And actually I found 2-color to be easier than 1-color to keep track of, like what row you were on and what you were supposed to do next. I would absolutely knit another one of these. I am not sure if you can tell though. You probably can just a little bit. I did have a little bit of a mistake row where I've got like 12 stitches here that are not correct. So that's the one side of it, and the Harlow hat is reversible. So this is the other side. Which side do you prefer? I'm really curious because I like this side, and my husband likes this side. Yeah, I think when I wear it, it's gonna be like this. And I have enough to knit a second one. Now, I will say my decreases were not the best. I feel like I could have done a better job there. They were kind of gapey. So need some more practice there, but in any case, definitely just a really fun little project to work on. If you're going on a road trip, that would be a great one to take with you. All right, have I just been speeding through? Do you feel okay? Let's see, what is next on the finished object train? Okay, in one of the last episodes, I showed you my 40th birthday sweater that is a bright blue Colette tee, but with long sleeves. And I knit it in Elmer fingering from the Llama Kid and also Sonder yarn Halo, held double. So that was just the solid blue one. But because I was not ready to let the blue go, I did have a spontaneous cast on, and this is the sweater that I wore for the Nash Yarn Fest. So I knit this, I think, in like 2 weeks. It is knit on a larger gauge. I think it is a 17 stitch gauge. This is the Hackett sweater. As I said, not ready to let the blue go, but didn't have quite enough for another sweater, so I combined it with a couple other colors that I had gotten one-off skeins from Sonder, and that is the Sunday Morning 4-ply in Playlist, which seemed fitting for like Nashville, and also the Halo in Limoncello. That's what I'm going with. And so they both combined. The Halo is definitely a little lighter. There were a couple that I wasn't sure what a good color match would be. So I did email Melissa at Sonder and asked her which mohair, or she thought which Halo would go best with this. And she recommended the Limoncello, so that's what I chose. And I thought, also like how great is that I can email and say, hey, you've got this yarn in person, tell me what the color match is so that I don't make a bad decision. So anyway, this is the Hackett sweater. This is the Hackett sweater hacked. Okay, don't remember the name of the designer. As always, it will be in my notes below. But basically the whole premise of this is that it is a top-down Raglan framework that then you can adjust all the things. So it gives different sleeves options, gives different neckline options. I think there's a V-neck, gives an option for, you know, like a cable down the middle, just a ton of different options that you can choose from in order to complete this sweater. It is a pretty long pattern. I don't remember the page count, but it's up there. But like I said, it's not really designed to like read straight through. It's more for you to be able to plug and play features that you want in a sweater. So, I chose to go with the folded neckline. I added a pearl ridge at the fold, which I loved. I went with the stripe, and then I chose kind of like a short, little bit of a balloony sleeve. And let me tell you, this sweater is one that I get so many compliments on. I guess it's the bright color, I'm not really sure, but my first wear, Mia and I went to a neighborhood restaurant, and the waitress asked if, or the server asked if they could buy the sweater off of me. And I was like, well, no, I need to wear it to the event tomorrow, so, or today, so no, you cannot buy it. But in any case, it is definitely a crowd pleaser and not in my normal color palette, you guys, but I do absolutely love it. And the fact that it's at a 17 stitch gauge made it surprisingly wearable for me throughout the spring. So I love to pair this with my white jeans and kind of like a pair of tan loafers. It was like just such a great spring ensemble. We have flown way past spring and we are now in like 90-degree weather for the most part. It's been miserable. I've been getting up at 4:45 each morning just to be able to walk, because otherwise it's just too hot. So I think this one is probably on the shelf for the rest of the season. I would definitely recommend this pattern, the Hackett sweater. I thought it was for anybody who is just like ready to kind of choose their own adventure. I thought it was just a really simple, straightforward concept that is easily translatable and completely versatile. I think it was a little on the pricier side, but keep in mind, you could potentially knit 4 or 5 sweaters if you just stick with the different combinations and recommendations that the designer gives. Oops, I just tossed that on the floor. All right. While we were on the Raglan adventure, I did cast on the Cozy Classic Raglan. So this has been in my pattern library forever, and I'm also using Deep Stash. You will still notice blue. I was out of the Elmer, but I did still have a little bit of the halo left, so I combined this with Deep Stash, Sandusgarn Sunday, and then the gray is, oh, they're on cones, Holstgarn Super Soft, and my Knitting for Olive mohair in Morning Dew. Do not ask me why I have so much gray mohair. I don't know where my brain was at, but I bought just a ton of it several years ago and I'm still working my way through it. So I think this is the 3rd project that you've seen in this exact combination of yarn. And it's not because I just really love this yarn, it's just because it's in my stash and I'm trying my best to knit through the stash at this point. So anyway, this is the Cozy Classic Raglan. Now, I made some modifications here. One is that I did a 2x2. Is it a 2x2 in the pattern? I think it's a 1x1. So I did a 2x2 and I made the short sleeves. Now, this is a 19 stitch gauge. That one was a 17. If I had been a good little knitter and read the pattern all the way through start to finish, I would have realized that there were instructions for modifications at the end of the pattern. I didn't do that. I just cast on and went with it, and therefore struggled my way through all the modifications to get them how I wanted them to be, when I really could have just read at the end of the pattern and it would have told me exactly how to handle all the different situations. But in any case, I did obviously shorten the sleeves here, and I also incorporated some waist shaping into the sweater. It uses lifted increases, which is all well and good until I get to the fact that then I've got to do short rows in a lifted increase on the back side. So I definitely have some twisted stitches in my Raglan, and you're not going to look very closely at that. You're just gonna focus on the lovely stripes. So I did modify this to be a short sleeve. And I did also do the waist shaping, and there are 2 different waist shaping alternatives in the pattern. By the time I got done with the sleeves and was back on the body, I had discovered the modification section at the end of the pattern. So on the waist shaping that I chose was to shape, you know, starting at the underarm straight down through the wrist. There's also a waist shaping option that's just on the last row before your rib. I ended up actually doing 1 set of increases too many. The rib was terribly stretched. I had to rip it back and re-knit the bottom. It is what it is. I want to get it right. My only complaint about this sweater, as far as the fit, because it's darling, I get compliments on it. However, the Raglan is pretty deep. I think it's like 8 inches depth on the Raglan from the size that I chose, and I don't remember what size that is. Maybe I should look at the pattern. I could be pulling up all these patterns and telling you guys what I did. Oops. Okay, no, it appears that I did not mark down what size I worked on. Okay, I knit a size 2. I knit a size 2 in that. Which I think is a small. So for my size, the Raglan depth, I believe, okay, it was 8.5 inches. Now for me, that's a pretty deep Raglan, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna trust the pattern. And I think that would have been fine if I had stuck with just a straight waistline, but what I do think I discovered in this is that a deeper Raglan combined with waist shaping makes for a fidgety sweater. So this is a sweater that while it looks great, and I do wear it very often, I am always fidgeting and pulling it down, and I have to mess with it a lot. So it's a sweater that I know that I'm wearing, and not one that just wears easily. That's my only thing. If I were knitting this again, I probably would have skipped the last 2 increases and maybe just cast on under the arms instead to just have a little bit of a more shallow Raglan. But otherwise, I think it worked out really well. I'm curious, does this look different? I don't know why it would, it's the exact same yarn, but for some reason on the camera, it's looking like the body blue is one and the sleeves are different. Do you see that? That's super weird. I swear they're the exact, well, they had to be the same because look, like it would be impossible for it to be different. I don't know, guys. I'll be interested to see if you see that too, or if it's just me, because I can't figure out if that's just a camera illusion or what. All right, so let me press pause. Let me press pause and go get my whips, and I will be right back. Wait, we're not ready yet. Okay, I almost forgot, but then I remembered. I do owe one of you a long overdue Ravelry pattern. So if this is you, then you are the recipient of the very stale Easter egg comment from several months ago. And please email me, knitweekend@gmail.com. We'll connect and I will get you a Ravelry pattern. But we do still have an Easter egg question for this week. Now, normally I bury these, but like I said, out of practice. So this week's Easter egg question, which you may recall, you need to leave the comment below with an egg emoji. That lets me know that you are playing along. This week's Easter egg question is, when you're in a funk, what do you do to get yourself out? And I'm not just talking about knitting, I'm talking about general life funk. I feel like there's a lot of that going around right now. So for me, I made sure to start reincorporating my kind of active time. So that's been walking and yoga, which has helped tremendously. If I'm being completely honest, my knitting has made me more sedentary than I would like to be. Not only is that like not good for my physical health, but also not really my mental health either. So had been making it a point to have at least 30 minutes of either a walk or yoga each day, depending on the weather the past several weeks. And that has really been helping a lot. Also, kind of rekindling my love of music. I mean, believe me, no shortage of music in this house, but I stopped listening to a lot of music. So I've kind of rediscovered some old artists that I like and found some new artists. Recently, we went to the Ryman show for Larkin Poe, which was great. It was a fantastic show. Talk about some powerful women. They were amazing. And also just revisiting some music from my heydays of my 20s in the Nashville music scene, which has been fun. My husband told me the other day that he had never seen me get so excited over an artist before, but that's because I know every word to every song. It's Will Hogue, by the way. I don't know if you're probably not from Nashville and probably have no idea who that is, but that was my favorite musician throughout college. And he's had some new releases recently that I've just been rediscovering. So anyhow, what do you do when you're in a funk to kind of get yourself unstuck and and re-engaged. Let me know. Don't forget your egg emoji. All right, now it's to be continued.